65% roughly of all the connected devices that you see there are tech spending in 2014 are coming from smartphones, tablets, LCD TVs, right? And all of this is actually still on the growth trend in Asia Pacific. So this is a market which is still really growing, and it's driven by connectivity essentially. So a lot of the Asian consumers are now really considering wanting to be connected. So all of their needs are focused towards how we can connect to each other. The middle class is booming. So countries like India, for example, right? And even in China, the middle class is really booming. So the expectations for connectivity also increases massively. Being online all the time is important. And the price erosion in Asia, so it's a very, very competitive time now in Asia Pacific. Just to let you know, this is the number of additional devices or connected devices, so everything that basically can connect to the internet. 566 million additional devices were sold. That accounts to about 144 billion in terms of US dollars. So connectivity really increases across Asia. The number of brands, which is another thing I took the same 2 years. 2010, smartphones with 16 brands across Asia Pacific. Tablets mainly 2. LCD TVs 37 brands and laptops about 25. See how that's evolved in 2014. Now this gives you a clue as to what's really happening in the smartphone industry. Why the prices are eroding so much. There are 90 different brands today. So you just multiply 90 different brands by each brand launching about 3 to 5 models. That's the quantity that you see up there in Asia Pacific. So consumers today, even in the very emerging countries, right, in Vietnam, in Indonesia, for example, in India, everyone can afford a smartphone. So this is what's happening. So tablets now, we have 77 brands of tablets. LCD TVs, 52 brands. Laptops, about the same, so that didn't change too much. The market value for smartphones correspondingly would have increased, obviously, with the number of brands multiplied by the number of SKUs that you're going to see in the market. So that has obviously increased. What about the price? So we talked about the number of brands. So this is the effect of the number of brands coming out into the market. You see all the price points eroding, right? 2010 versus 2014. From smartphones, $359, for example, to now $265 US. Tablets, the most eroding in terms of price points to $358 US. LCD TVs, laptops. And if you take a benchmark of the average price, you see each of the lower bands, all right, has grown tremendously as well. All right, so this is really putting a screen in almost every household, in almost every room, in almost every hand in Asia Pacific. So improved, and on top of that, you have technology. On top of that, technology has improved in these cheaper devices as well. So the camera display size has increased. The camera is now a lot better. Distribution for tablets, for example, now everywhere and almost any one of the retailers will be selling tablets, LCD TVs, right? The second and the third room now, so almost every room would have a TV. Laptops, emergence of the low price. Now laptops is quite unique because we saw now an increase in the volumes of laptops. So it's starting to see a recovery actually. So I'll show you that a little bit later on. The middle class, I talked about the middle class. So this is Asia. In 2009, 28% of it middle class. In 2020, it's estimated to be 54%. In 2030, this is going to be about 66%. So that's why a lot of the charts that you see today on Asia Pacific, that's the region of growth. The connected consumer. Now we did, GfK Roper did a survey as well back in 2013, I think in 2014 as well. We won't see much of a change, but if we look at the way people are using smartphones, right, to send and receive photos, about 51%. So a lot of social media content, right? Send and receive messages, listen to music, access the internet. So this is a device in Asia which is quite important. And of all the important applications that they use, you can see photo and video is way up there on the list. Reading the news, travel, productivity. And now comes the emergence of the health. So health and fitness trackers now, you see that growing up. It's going to go up in significance simply because you will see a lot of the local manufacturers and the Chinese brands launching a lot of devices which you can put on the wrist. I think we saw some of those devices being introduced earlier today as well. Well, we expect these kinds of applications going to go up the list, and in GFK we started tracking as well these kinds of devices. So essentially a phone is going to be used for these kinds of applications, and across all of these applications the impact of social media in emerging Asia continues to be the single most important element. And one of the points that I was making as well in the camera conference, the CP Plus conference in Yokohama in the beginning of this year, was the camera. Now, everyone talked about the camera, and we realized that a lot of the applications and the power of the photography and the actual picture quality is coming out from the application itself and not really the hardware, because the hardware in the smartphones in terms of the lens has already evolved to a pretty advanced stage. Right? It is the applications that's in it. So the camera has now become the hardware. The application has become the hardware. And this is one of the points that I was trying to raise to the camera industry back in February. And I'll show you one of the slides which is also quite important to them towards the end of it. So smartphone is a communication tool, as I mentioned, but that at the expense of that, you see that it started to erode all of the other product categories like compact cameras, portable media players, and car audio navigation. So all these devices started to suffer because of the smartphone. So it's a give and take scenario. So the largest and the most preferred screen size across the different regions, you can see in developed Asia is about 4.9 inches. China is almost close to the same level in terms of screen preference, in size preference. And this is where we see the year-on-year trend, or rather the month-on-month trend, where we see versus the previous month whether the market has grown. So if we look at the blue line on the left where the notebooks, you can see that the growth trend is starting to recover for notebook PCs. So this is quite a unique evolution, and we know that in terms of price points, the notebook PCs also did not erode too much. That's in matured Asia. In emerging Asia, you see that we're starting to see as well a recovery in the notebook PC just above the negative line on month. For TVs, the same trends you see in 2013, 40 to 46 inch being the highest take. If you look at 2014, you can see now the 50, 55, 60 inch TVs are now the preference. But of course, in terms of quantity, in terms of value and quantity, this has dropped slightly across Asia Pacific. But we see it moving upwards in terms of the screen preference. In terms of the branding, we look at the smartphones, tablets, TVs, and computers. Just focus on the two on the left. You see that the Chinese brands, as far as smartphones are concerned, are really starting to eat up into the markets across Asia Pacific. Tablets, you see mostly coming from the local brands who are starting to eat up in terms of shares. Mobile computers still remain the Taiwanese and the local brands, Taiwanese and the international brands. Instant connectivity. Just to let you know, Indonesia has the highest percentage of social media users in the world today. Indonesia. All right. If you went to any country in the world, Indonesia would be number one in terms of social media usage. And the highest usage of social media via a smartphone will also be in Indonesia. Average price points not necessarily declining in all product segments, as I showed you earlier on. And in-store activities in Asia Pacific is still very important. Yes, we hear a lot about online, but in Asia, even in the matured countries, in-store activities are still very significant. And the playground for multi-brands. So we talked about so many brands being launched in Asia Pacific. I think that's not the end of it, right? We're still going to see a lot more activities coming up soon.